In our previous video, we were right here in the Argonne Forest, taking a look at the story of the Lost Battalion. Well, today we're going to take a look at the man who led them into this forest and the man who commanded them during the ordeal that they had here in the forest. And that is a man by the name of Major Charles W. Whittlesey. Charles Whittlesey was born in Florence, Wisconsin. He studied law at Harvard University and went on to be a partner in a law firm prior to the Great War. In May 1917, a month after America had entered the Great War, Whittlesey took leave from his job and joined the US Army. He was going to be sent here as part of the 308th Infantry of the 77th Division. He was a captain. By October 1918, Whittlesey had been promoted to the role of Major, and he was going to lead his men into the Meuse Argonne as part of their offensive here. Now, we already know the story of the Lost Battalion, and if you don't, I would probably recommend pausing this video, go back and watch the last video I did on this channel, and in fact I'll link it right here, and then come back and watch this one, because that one really sets the kind of ground knowledge to be able to get the best from this video. For 6 days, Whittlesey held his men together right here on this ridge. The Germans were at the top of the ridge, launching heavy counterattacks to them. They were under constant attack and under heavy artillery fire from their own American artillery. They were running short on water. The only water they had access to was in a stream that runs down through the bottom of the valley here. But unfortunately, to get to it, you had to cross an area that was visible by German snipers up here on the ridge. This was an almost impossible situation for Whittlesey to lead these men through. Situation worsened when on the 7th of October, the Germans sent one of the Americans that they'd captured back to the American lines with a note demanding their surrender. The note from the Germans read, "The suffering of your wounded men can be heard over here in the German lines, and we're appealing to your humane sentiments to stop. A white flag shown by one of your men will tell us that you agree with these conditions. Please treat Private Lowell R. Hollingshead, the note bearer, as an honourable man. He is quite a soldier. We envy you. The German commanding officer." Whittlesey's alleged reply was, "You go to hell," but he later denied saying that. He felt that no reply was necessary, and instead he collected in white sheets that had been left here as signals to spotter planes to help identify their location. He didn't want those to be mistaken as a signal for surrender, and so they were taken in. Later that night, into the 8th of October, the American forces were going to break through the line here into the pocket, and the Lost Battalion were no longer trapped here. Unfortunately though, of the more than 500 men who moved into this area, less than 200 of them were going to walk back out. The rest had been killed, wounded, or missing. Whittlesey received a battlefield promotion to Lieutenant Colonel. He was going to return to the United States as a hero. On the 6th of December 1918, he was awarded the Medal of Honor for his actions here in the Argonne Forest. The story of the Lost Battalion became one of the most well-known events in the Great War. In 1919, it was turned into a movie in which Whittlesey himself featured. He tried to go back to his job as a lawyer after the war, but he was just in constant demand for speeches and quotes related to the events here of the Lost Battalion. The pressure wore on Whittlesey, and he shared with a friend not long after the Great War, "Not a day goes by that I don't hear from some of my old outfit, usually about some sorrow or misfortune. I cannot bear it much more." Whittlesey never married or had children, and in November 1921 he acted as a pallbearer during the ceremony and burial of the unknown soldier at Arlington National Cemetery. A few days after that, he booked passage from New York to Havana, Cuba on the SS Taloa. The first night out of New York, Whittlesey dined with the captain and he left the smoking room at about 11:15 p.m. The captain noted that he was in good spirits. Whittlesey was never seen again. It was assumed that he had thrown himself overboard, committing suicide, although his body was never recovered. Before leaving New York, Whittlesey had prepared a will. He'd left his property to his mother, and in his cabin on the ship were found a bunch of letters written to friends and relatives. Whittlesey's suicide was front page news, although those who knew him well weren't surprised by it. Colonel Averill, the 308th commander, noted, "Whittlesey's death was in reality a battle casualty, and that he met his end as much in the front line of duty as if he had fallen by a German bullet." Hope you guys enjoyed this video taking a look at the story of Major Charles W. Whittlesey, the man who held together the men in the pocket during the ordeal of the Lost Battalion. Whittlesey's death is another tragedy of the Great War, and it goes to show how many men who weren't killed on the battlefields still went on to suffer the horrors of the Great War years after it had finished. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.